The federal government. We've been involved at the federal level for over 50 years. We've had a Department of Education. It used to be the policy of the Republican Party to get rid of the Department of Education. We finally get in charge and a chance to do something, so we doubled the size of the Department of Education, and we have no child left behind. The teachers don't like it, the students don't like it, and the quality of education hasn't gone up. The cost of education has gone up. So we need to look to our local resources. We need to release the creative energy of the teachers at the local level, but what we can do immediately is to give tax credits. I have a bill that would give tax credits to the teachers to raise their salaries. At the same time, we should encourage homeschooling and private schooling and let the individuals write that off. The parents have to get control of the education. It used to be parents had control of education through local school boards. Today, it's the judicial system and the executive branch of government, the bureaucracy that controls things. And it would be predictable that the quality would go down. The money goes to the bureaucrats and not to the educational system at home.
Thank you. Senator Thompson, how would you answer that?
The question was, what's the biggest impediment to education?
What is the biggest obstacle standing in the way, and how would you address it?
The biggest obstacle, in my opinion, is the National Education Association, the NEA. I read time and time again, every time someone wants to inject a little choice into the equation for the benefit of the kids, inject a little freedom, inject a little competition, because we're not exactly doing that well because of the things that you pointed out earlier. The NEA is there to oppose it and bring in millions and millions of dollars to go on television and work and scare people and misrepresent the situation on the ground. I think that just goes against everything that we know that can make progress in this country. We're a nation of freedom and innovation and choice. And well-to-do people are out in the suburbs. They don't seem to care that much. Inner city people need a chance to enjoy the choice that the mayor's talking about for colleges and universities. Other people have choice too. If they're wealthy enough to move into a neighborhood because they want their kid to go to school there, that's choice too. Let's give it to everybody else, and let's stop people from standing in the way of that.
Thank you. Congressman Tancredo, what's your take on all that?
Yeah, I had the opportunity to serve under Ronald Reagan as the regional director for the U.S. Department of Education. Our task was to try to narrow it down because we knew we couldn't legislatively get rid of it, although we wanted to. And so I went, in my region, we went from about 222 people. It took us about 4 or 5 years to get down to about 60 people. I used to always say, we've gotten rid of 80% of the people in this department. Has anybody been able to tell the difference? And you know what? Not a single soul said they had. And something else, if we had gone to zero, you'd never know the difference. That's because we don't need the department. It's an encumbrance on our attempt to actually teach children in this country, as is the federal government and its intervention and its rules. But you can't, I don't think, Governor, with all due respect, you can't say on one hand you're against having government intervention, and on the other hand, tell us that you want music and art and everything else in the school. That's not the job of a president. It is the job of a governor. That's what you should run for if you want to dictate curriculum.
Governor Huckabee, would you like a rebuttal? You have 30 seconds.
Well, I made very clear to the congressman that what I suggested was that the federal government become the clearinghouse. It shows the best ideas. I was a governor 10.5 years. I had executive experience longer than anyone on this stage running a government. And I had also the most, I think, impressive education record. And you know what? I looked for what other states were doing that worked. I was looking for all the ideas. We raised standards, we measured, and we held people accountable for the results. Anytime you give governors the opportunity to know what will work, they'll use it because it means jobs, it means economic development. That's exactly the only role. But if anyone doubts that the president ought not to use the bully pulpit to encourage the best practices, I would say the second most job of importance to the president, second to being commander-in-chief, is to be the communicator-in-chief. And we're losing a lot of kids in this country. A third don't graduate. For a president to say that's none of my business, it's recklessly irresponsible. A president needs to say it's unacceptable that many kids leave our schools every single day.
That's a fine statement.
Okay, Governor Romney.
I just wanted a small adjustment to what Governor Huckabee had to say, and I don't believe you had the finest record of any governor in America in education. And because there's another one on the stand whose kids outperform me. The kids in our state, as I indicated, scored #1 in all 4 measures on the national exams, and they did that because of Republican principles, free market principles applied, and there was a partnership. You see, education is not just the teachers union. I agree with Senator Thompson on that. Boy, they've been the biggest obstacle to change in education and choice. It's not just the one side of this. It's teachers, it's parents, It's the state, it's the federal government, it's all levels coming together and working together for the benefit of our kids. And we face right now an education challenge that's really unusual. We're behind. America's behind in education. Our kids score in the bottom 10 or 25% in exams around the world among major industrial nations. And we've got to have the kind of change that requires all of us working together, not just poking and saying it's someone else's job.
Thank you. In light of the big needs and the financial realities we've just discussed up to this point, realistically, what do you believe you could accomplish in your first year as president? We're going to go down the line, starting with Mr. Giuliani, and so that everyone gets a chance to talk, I need you to keep your remarks to 30 seconds.
We can make sure that the country is secure against Islamic terrorism and on the road to winning the war against Islamic terrorists. We could end illegal immigration by beginning a border stat system. It might take 2 or 3 years, but we could begin it. We could do a major tax reduction, the ones that I indicated earlier, to stimulate the economy. I would immediately begin to reduce the size of the federal government, the way I did when I was mayor of New York. And I would move toward energy independence as a goal similar to putting a man on the moon, the Manhattan Project. You can use a lot of ways to describe the imperative nature of it. But I would make sure that we accomplished energy independence. We would do things that we hadn't done before and that we previously thought were impossible. And you need bold leadership to accomplish that, and I think I can do that.
Congressman?
First, you've got to strengthen the U.S. military. We have to look at the horizon past Iraq and Afghanistan and see the emergence of North Korea with nuclear capability, Iran proceeding on that path, despite what the NIE says, and also the emergence of communist China as a new superpower stepping into the shoes of the Soviet Union. So strengthening the military and meeting those horizon threats, and also strengthening our border, enforcing the U.S. border. That means building the border fence and making sure that we know who is coming into this country, what they're bringing with them. Lastly, bringing back the industrial base of the United States. It right now is fragmenting and being sent off to China and to other places around the world, which also is a security threat. Bringing back high-paying manufacturing jobs to this country that will serve this next generation well.
Thank you. That's a tall order for a year. Congressman Paul, what about you?
Well, there's a limit what you can do in 1 year, and at home it's more difficult. You would have to work with the Congress, but the commander-in-chief could end the war. We could bring our troops home. That would be a major event. It would be very valuable. We could be we could become diplomatically credible once again around the world. Right now, today, we're not. Even our allies resent what we do. We would have no more preemptive war. We would threaten nobody. We would not threaten Iran. Now that it is proven once again, Iraq didn't have the nuclear weapon, had nothing to do with 9/11. The Iranians have no nuclear weapon, according to our CIA. There's no need for us to threaten the Iranians. We could immediately turn the Navy around and bring them home, and I think this would be a major step toward peace.
Thank you, Congressman.
First 5 minutes after taking office, I would free Ramos and Compiègne, that's for sure. Then the second thing I would do was to make sure that begin the process of securing those borders and enforcing the law inside the United States against hiring people who are here illegally. Then I would use that bully pulpit that the governor talked about, and it is absolutely accurate in terms of the importance of it for a president of the United States. For this reason, to explain that it is in fact a war. A war is not going on in Iraq. That's a battle. We are fighting a war against radical Islam. It is a threat to our existence as a nation. It's a threat to Western civilization. It will take someone who's willing to say that and lead Western civilization in this clash.
Thank you. Senator Thompson, your first year.
Well, it wouldn't take me a year. I'd go before the American people and tell them the truth and try to establish my credibility and tell them that we haven't come to terms yet with the nature of the threat that we're facing or what we're going to have to do to defend ourselves over the years. I'd tell them that if they didn't already know it, we're bankrupting the next generation and nobody even wants to talk about it, much less do anything about it. I'd tell them that judges are setting our social policy now in this country and that's going to stop. And then I'd bring in members of Congress and say, look, I just got a mandate. We can work and cooperate together or I'll go over your head to the American people.
Governor Romney?
I want to do more than talk in my first year. There are a lot of things I want to get done. First of all, I want to establish a strategy to help us overwhelm global jihad and keep the world safe. I want to end illegal immigration. We can get that done. I want to end the expansion growth of entitlements, rein them in. I want to end the extraordinary growth in federal spending, and I want to keep our tax burden down and reduce our tax burden on middle-income families. I want to get us on a track to become energy independent. I want to get our schools on a track so they can become competitive globally, and I want to get health insurance for every citizen in America. It's going to take 4 years for that to happen, but I'll get us on track in that. We'll have a stronger military, a stronger economy, and stronger values with stronger